All right, this begins Budget Workshop 2. We are starting on the agenda tonight with Medical Rescue Team South.
Okay,
You guys are up.
guys are, come on up to the table.
Up here.
Yep.
You got a comfy chair.
Hot seats.
All right.
Hot seats.
We don't bite part of it, because then the other fine.
Oh, they're used to you and I.
I'll just obviously introduce myself. My name is Dr. Forrest. I'm the new director at Medical Rescue Team South. A little bit of background about me. I started in EMS in 1995, so I have about 30 years in EMS, and I worked for one of the largest ambulance services in the state in Westmoreland County, Mutual Aid, for 27 years. I went back to school. My wife told me I had to be a good example for my children and obtained a degree. I'm not sure that I'm really a good example, but it was worth it. So I went back to Seton Hill and got my master's degree. I left Mutual Aid and went to UPMC and worked in pre-hospital care. Looked over 40 ambulance services for about 2 years there, and then came here in March. It's a little bit of a background about me. Just some, things I wanted to cover for Medical Rescue Team South. In 2023, we had 4,774 calls. As of the end of September 2024, we're at like 3,430. So at an average on track, we'll probably be around that 4,600 calls again for year 2024. Just kind of a quick overview with equipment. Unfortunately, the FDA puts mandates for our cardiac monitors, and there's an 8-year lifespan for those. Our 8 years will be up, so unfortunately, we're going to have to purchase cardiac monitors. The new monitors at this time is around $70,000, and we would need 7 of those next year. So we would obviously be looking for next year to 2026. Our fleet, we have an aging fleet. We have 4 ambulances that we have actually remounted the box 3 times on 2 of them, and the other 2 we've remounted 2 times. We do have 3 Dodges that we purchased a few years ago. That's in our fleet, so we have a total of 7. Then we have the chief's vehicle and a squad, and then our lieutenant's Tahoe. Equipment wise, we're pretty much, a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, we had power load stretchers to try to help with lower the cost of our workers' comp for lifting injuries, which they were able to quantify that truly has helped out a good bit for that. We have stair chairs on order. The stair chair is the chair that we carry the patients out of the house with. They are actually on order. The new ones we currently have the ones with the track. That's the old system to take the patient down steps. The new ones hopefully should be here actually by the end of this month or beginning of next month. I just those to the director about that. Last year, actually probably this time or a tad bit before, they looked at, obviously they had a contract negotiation with the union. And they changed from an 8-hour shift to a 12-hour shift. So at that time, they were able to downsize by 2 employees for staffing purposes for the 12-hour rotation. My background, when I worked at Mutual Aid since 2010, I actually worked a 12-hour rotation myself for many, many years. There's some nuances that we work through the same problem with 12-hour rotation of staffing, levels and call-offs and backfills and stuff like that. So I'm very familiar with, working through that process. Recently, coming on board, I've tried to essentially do from the top to the bottom of hey, we take a call, our charting process to billing. So we were able to work through some processes with our charting. So we got a new software that essentially integrates with St. Clair, Page, and UPMC. So where we're able to use they call it CAD upload, and it pulls all the patient's demographics from the hospital verified into our charting system, which then obviously helps out the billing cycle itself. We use QuickMed claims to bill. There were just some, I think, miscommunication from essentially us as an organization to QuickMed. There, could be missing things in charts or what have you, that unfortunately weren't being taken care of. So we were able to kind of streamline, that whole process. On the payroll side, we were kind of old school to where we clocked in on one system, stuck it to a spreadsheet and then sent it to an account to then put into the payroll system to then be paid. So I was able to, obviously with the direction of the board to get a payroll system as Paycom. So it's essentially a one-stop solution. So we're able to punch in, we're able to do our scheduling, payroll, any classes, online classes. It holds all of our certifications and dates. So it's kind of it replaced like 6 different platforms that we had to use for all that stuff. Trying to think if there was anything else, kind of a quick overview. But as we said today, I had a proposed budget that I sent to the board. And obviously there's 5 other communities that are involved in this process. With the 12-hour rotation, we've had a lot of situations to where we're mandating employees if there's call off or vacation or injury to where they're working. The way the contract states is it's an 18-hour shift. So if they're on 12, they get mandated for 6 and it's backfill. So through the process, at the beginning, it seemed to be okay. And I'll kind of let Dave speak to that if that's, he's a little better off of the beginning part of the contract. That probably in the last 6 months, we've had a lot of forces and the staff, unfortunately, are working on their past days. So I ran numbers for the board and essentially I ran it over the last 5 pays. So the last 10 weeks, on average, every single week, half of the employees either have to work on a past day, come in early, or they're mandated to stay late. So a lot of our crews are working 18 hours off 6, 18 hours, or some will work 6 off 6, work 18, like whatever we have to do for that purpose. So Dave and I have kind of sat down and come up with a proposal again to our board and the other 5 communities of adding 1 crew that would help alleviate some of that for the call-offs, A, of the backfill of the mandates, but B, our response times have beginning to creep up. It's only like a minute here or there. We're right around the national average, which is 8. I think last month we were at like around 9 minutes to the call. But over there, again, the stacked calls, and just to kind of give everybody a overview briefly of a stacked call. So as 911 dispatches calls, depending on the priority, depending on how many other calls are going on in our service area. If it's a low acuity call and there's no ambulance available, they'll stack it. So then the next ambulance that becomes available, we'll go take that call. So unfortunately, we've had more stacked calls recently than we've had in the past. So as Dave and I sat down to kind of come up with a plan of the stack calls, the employees being forced, we proposed to the board that we would like to put on another crew to help alleviate all of those. And with that, our proposal, no, absolutely.
One is just for the benefit of commission and the audience, when you say past day.
Off day, excuse me. So it's their day off. Yeah, so the 12-hour rotation, they'll work 36 1 week and 48 the other. So they refer to as a past day, but it's their off day. So whenever they're off, they're in line. And there's an order of the way the call outs work. And Dave, if you wanted Dave to touch on how it works, but yeah, so if they're day off and they're up to be forced, they're forced to come in and work the shift.
And then the other piece, again, for backstory for folks not familiar, Mount Lebanon is a certain percentage of the total of the budget, and it's based on calls into Mount Lebanon. So it's how's it allocated?
Yeah.
Number of calls come in. So we're up to about 44%, and that's been
46. Yeah.
46%. 46% has been fairly steady. It's not like it
It's been like
40 to 52. That
it's been like
percentage has
high
been consistent.
44s. I think the last couple of years have been like 45-4, and this year's like 46-1 or something. It's within that 1 or 2% that Mount Lebanon is essentially 46% of our call volume.
And then becomes 46% of the funding that goes in.
Correct.
Correct. For anybody's not aware of the setup of a better way to put it. So anyway, thank you.
No, absolutely. Any questions for me or David?
What is the your long-term horizon on your CIP look like? I mean, you kind of threw out ambulances and step chairs. So do you have a 5-year?
Yeah, so actually Dave and I are trying to put that together now. So what I've been able to trend in the past is as an example, 7 stretchers and power loads in the ambulance, it was 1 purchase. Or if we need X amount of ambulance, it was 1 purchase. So now you're looking at a large sum of like, oh, we need $500,000 for a cardiac monitor, or 1 million for stretchers. At my other ambulance service, kind of was the same thing. And I think it's just kind of like, oh gosh, we need ambulances, you know, we buy them or what have you. I was able to work to where it's not a fixed cost, but it's more of a fixed cost to where if we're replacing, you know, the majority, like the cardiac monitors is a 7-year lifespan from the FDA. So it's not a manufacturer thing, it's the FDA. Now stretchers, Stryker's doing the same, and a stretcher lasts longer than 7 years, maintenance records and all that, you're able to do it. But I was proposed to the board that if we're able to, or if ambulance is gonna replace every 7 years, and the majority of the equipment is also the same thing, that you could essentially look at, you know, 1 ambulance outfitted with the stuff to where now it's $350,000 potentially, you know, just a number a year, rather than, oh gosh, I have to spend 1.8 million now, and then 2 years from now, another 1.2 or 200,000. Like, we were looking more of trying to get a number and see what our equipment looks like. And Dave and I are currently trying to inventory to see where everything is at, to come up with a plan to be like, okay, hey, we're gonna look at, you know, X moving forward.
Greg? No questions? Oh, wow.
So, do you want the chief to then explain a bit about, you're about to pass it off to the chief and continue your presentation, so my
Yeah.
bad for interrupting.
No, you're fine. Absolutely. If there's questions for Dave, and obviously David's here because of the background of
Yeah.
me not totally knowing the extensive background of the history of MRSA and the relationship that we have with all of you. So if there was questions for Dave, that's why.
Besides being a Mount Lebanon resident,
Which I am,
He is, yeah.
how long you been with Mertza?
29 years.
To anybody who has questions about the long history of Mertza.
Well, I think just to update everybody, we met with Doug earlier before this, after we had gotten the request, which was $835,112. Last year, we paid $536,200. That's a 55% increase. So we met with Doug to try to understand what had happened. And he inherited this, really, which is a shame that you inherited it, because I look at the amount of loss that's in there. That isn't something that you guys knew was coming, but there it is. So when we met, we talked about the possibility of commissioning a study to take a look at MRSA in relationship to what other communities have done nationwide. Is there a better way to do this? I don't know if there is. But what else could be done and what happened, I think, is a little bit of that, not without tons of forensic accounting, but some, to just get a better feel for what the heck went on. And we have a finance committee meeting next Monday night. I have 3 motions that I'd like to introduce at the board meeting that I was gonna give to the finance committee to take a look at. Go from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But part of it would be a strategic plan too, that we have to figure out how to plan, because $835,000 is just not, it's really not sustainable.
And I think those motions have to actually be turned in the Friday.
Yes. Yeah. But we're still good on Monday.
We're still good on
Yeah,
Monday,
because
yeah.
it's that,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
next Friday.
To be on the agenda.
I called Jason to talk to him about it, but I haven't heard back from him, so to explain what we were proposing to do. And in the meantime, which was really interesting, Keith was at a SHACOG meeting and ran into Peters Township's manager.
They just went through a similar exercise where they issued an RFP to come in, take a look at how they're delivering ambulance service there in Washington County. So again, no preconceived notions, just to say, hey, I think currently they use their VFW.
Yeah.
And that's going to become a challenge. It's becoming a challenge now. So they want to make sure that they're prepared and have a plan to move forward. So Paul Lauer, who's their manager, was willing to share the RFP that they issued with me. So again, we could work from that if the board decides to
Mhm.
approve that motion to try to move that forward. And just for anybody that, again, has picked up a copy of our budget or has looked at the budget, at the time we went to print, we didn't have a number yet from MRTSA. So the number that's reflected in our budget for 2025 is actually last year's number. And everybody, I think, understands that will be subject to some modifications. But again, at time of printing, we went with, last year's number just as a sort of a placeholder until we had a final number.
Can I ask, may I?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're looking at the 800, right, the total number that you're looking for from a budget perspective, from Mertz's perspective, is this we have to catch up, but things will stabilize next year and it will be less, or is this a new normal?
So-
As you have been currently budgeted?
No, that's actually a good question, and that's the concern of, it's anything else in daily life, when we go to the gas station or the grocery store for that, fact, but, and I brought up some other ideas of revenue streams to where either that could plateau and go down, because, again, could it continue to grow? Yes, it could, and that's what we're trying to look at is where are we at? We don't want that. Obviously, the last thing you want to do is continue to get it completely out of control, and 5 years from now, it'd be at 3 million, obviously it
Right.
could be a crazy number. So, that's, Dave and I are trying to see, are there other revenue streams that we could potentially do to try to defray that to where it doesn't? But to sit today and say, I don't know, I would assume that it probably, unfortunately, next year could very easily, be that, but I don't know right now.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to my question about the CIP, right? It's like if you said, look, I had 7 ambulances that are about to fall apart, and I have to buy new ones. Okay, that's why $300,000 more. But if, it's not CIP, right? It's structural costs, right? It's operational.
Right.
Expenses, right? It's part of that enterprise, expense that is just it's grown and
Right.
it hasn't been recognized in the budget. Then it's a structural discussion, which for me, then it's like, okay, we actually need to understand this bigger picture.
Right.
And I know that probably next month, the financial advisor that set up the payment plan when they did the 3 ambulances and the building and so forth.
Yeah.
Was coming in to talk. Dave Montz actually talked to him last week, and I talked to him Thursday or Friday last week too. The same thing of, okay, if we're gonna try this potential plan, with the ambulances and the cardiac monitors of where we're at, we're trying to put that in place, but no, you're exactly correct of the unknown, is a factor 100%.
One of the things that I understand happened early on was that there was never a capital budget set up for MRTSA to hold on to for a variety of reasons. But that gives you the potential of this kind of thing. So not that they should have their own capital budget necessarily, but at least that it's planned in there so we know ahead of time what it's gonna be.
And there had been the operational committees had to contribute for it. Part of it is the capital piece.
It's the
And
debt.
that totals up to this
Yeah.
request rate 35, but both funds
Yeah.
go together.
Mhm.
This is the third year, third different.
Mhm.
That's been a factor of going on. There were a number of years of just things weren't worked on,
Mhm.
where the station just was
Right.
not maintained. And dollars were spent simply to fix the leaks.
Yes.
And so that's some of catching up for lost time. There was a case where I think, was it last year, the year before, where literally someone forgot to bill all the municipalities properly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
that
actually
was-
just advised of that,
Supposedly.
a couple months ago. that
2023.
I think is,
When that was supposedly, but then 2024, there was another error and the chief at that time said that he could make up the difference. Well, when you're looking at $1 million shortfall, I don't think you made up the
I
difference.
know 2023, I think it was
500.
537, I think it's, it was.
Yeah, those are huge.
2023, yes,
Those are
absolutely.
huge.
If I may shed some light also on some of the more of the operational challenges that we face and what we were looking for. My name is David Turkle. I'm the chief of medical rescue team. And I'm a Mount Lebanon resident, as Mr. Silverman pointed out. So when the the union contract was negotiated this last go round, we did switch from an 8-hour to a 12-hour schedule rotation, which created some unforeseen circumstances. We had never done this. We had always worked 8-hour shifts. And with the bargaining unit, we don't have things like minimum staffing requirements. So what the problem that no one could have foreseen on either end of management or the union was that when these holes got created within the schedule, how did we fill them? Because we'd never worked it, there was just this unknown. Well, as we've been working the schedule now for some time, these holes have created bigger problems with our staffing and the level of service that we as MRTSA want to provide to our communities. Obviously, we're speaking to you, Mount Lebanon, but the other communities as well. So part of the increase to Mount Lebanon was also that we had wanted to hire 4 people total, which would give us 2 trucks on each line. So a full crew to help us defray the ability to not only not fill shifts. So if we did have call-offs, I know police departments go to minimums. If they have a call-off, they don't necessarily have to fill it. When you have an ambulance, there's 2 people on it. If you want that service model to go out and take care of someone, 2 people have to still be on it. So the adding staff enabled us to not necessarily fill overtime. Where it sits right now, our lieutenants do get on the ambulance when there are call-offs and someone's going to be forced, but there's 2 of them. So here we have again a situation where this extra staffing, which is, I completely understand, a significant amount of money to the municipality of Mount Lebanon, along with the other capital items, ambulances, monitors that are going on. The staffing is really important to make sure that we provide top level service to all of our constituents and the visitors of our communities. But also our staff are getting pretty crushed right now with having to be forced 18 hours, like the director said, off 6 hours, back in for another 18 hours. And as we're approaching some other personnel issues with some injuries that are going to create even bigger issues. So this staffing increase is very important to us from an operational perspective and from a protection of our citizens.
And what would happen if you only added 2 people as opposed to 4?
To be honest, I haven't thought of that. The problem is when you have the 12-hour shifts, there's 2 mirroring lines to one another. So if you add 2 people, you'd have to come up with some sort of model as, well, where do you put 2 people? If you added 1 to each line, we still, in theory, again, this would have to be something to sit down and sort of map out, but we're only adding 1 part of the piece of the puzzle to that line. So if instead of having, I'll give you the example, ideally, MRTSA would like to have 4 ambulances on from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 3 ambulances on from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Historically, on the overnight shift, we've only run 2 units, 2 ALS units from the hours of 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Having that 3rd unit, allows us to not give away calls to mutual aid services. It also allows us to take more mutual aid calls, which, as we've discussed in our meetings, is a prevalent issue. But having 1 person doesn't give us that extra resource. All it allows for is for 1 call off to be filled.
But I think the question was, if 2 people rather than 4, that's 1 crew rather than 2 crews.
Well, but then you'd have to, that'd be like, which child do you love the best, right? Which shift do
Only
you want to
one
put
line.
1 crew on?
Only 1 line would have it, so you'd have three crews on one day, and then the other line would only have 2.
So remember, there's
So
2,
every other day could be, 4 trucks, 3 trucks, 4 trucks, 3 trucks kind of thing.
yes, it wouldn't balance it out. And then when you look at 1 line would be unfairly affected by call-offs because the other line, you wouldn't have to fill anything.
And when you use the terminology line,
Sorry, so if you think of that, there's a rotation of schedules. Let's just say you have A and B that work the daylight line, A line and B line. So you'd have the units that work 36 hours 1 week and then 48 the next, and then the other units mirror them.
Right.
So if you added 1 ambulance to 1 daylight line, it offsets the other.
really helps the A's but not the B's.
Correct. Whereas, I mean, in theory, like I said, this is something I can sit down and map out. If you added a person, it's sort of more of a plugging a leak than it is actually solving a problem. 1 person to a line would okay, we can cover a call off. That way, we're not mandating someone on that one incident, but it doesn't actually help increase the staffing level.
To give a little background about our billing, everything that we bill, essentially, we're only getting about 40% of what we bill. This is for contractual purposes and so forth, but right now, our average that we receive back, from billing is $457 a call. And right now, our break even is $770.31 is, per call is what our, break even is.
You throw out those numbers quickly, so for anybody's listening, you obviously receive only 40% per call, but the other was,
Our average right now is, so, obviously, commercial, we'll get a little bit more, and, Medicaid, Medicare, we get less, but our average is $457 right now is what we're getting per call.
so 457 in revenue per call.
Yes.
However, when garage door goes up, the vehicle goes out, that call cost.
770.31,
Right,
so
just want to
the
make sure everybody hears
shortfalls.
the cost difference between.
Yeah, it's like
Seven
three,
seventy-one versus the 457.
yeah. That's, like a $315 shortfall.
And I think I've been saying over and over again, this is a broken system and not your fault.
No,
Don't,
yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I don't know how, the legislators above us think you can do anything with this because it's broken. I mean, you cannot run a business where you lose money every time you send somebody out. You go out of business.
It wasn't not long ago that we were just able to bill for like some treat no transports, not
Yes,
all.
now you can't.
And now we can, that some insurances, UPMC pays $75, Highmark might pay $225, Medicare does not pay, like, so again, it's not, there was no legislation that everybody has to pay. I know West Virginia, I think
Didn't do
Nick did
that.
that, yeah,
Yes,
they did
exactly.
to where every
That's why I've
insurance
been
company
saying
has.
this board, we've got to
has to
start
pay.
lobbying for
Yeah.
this. This is nonsense.
Yeah.
But you don't even want to get me started on medical stuff because I have a kid with special needs and trust me,
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
just
unfortunately, it's a
Yeah.
system.
bad system.
But it means it's be careful how I phrase this. It's a money loser each time that they
Absolutely,
go out,
yeah.
but this is not meant to be a profit-making business,
No, but
but
There's
it's meant to be
something-
patient care.
And I think as a commission, a community, there's always been this debate, is EMS healthcare or are they public safety? And we have to be looked at as both.
yeah, you're both. Yeah. Any more questions? No? Thank you
No,
for
thank
coming
you.
in. Really
No,
appreciate
you're very
it. And your work.
Yes, no,
We do.
absolutely. Thank you. And as Ann said, our meeting obviously is Monday, so
Monday,
hopefully,
yeah.
we're able to say.
Find
Monday
out
for
some-
finance and then a week from today for the budget.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
no, thank you.
All right, next on the list is police, page 66 in your budget.
All right. Hello, Madam President, Commissioners.
One sixty-seven.
Good finder.
Good.
And this.
Good. With that.
Right.
All righty, well.
Hmm.
Good evening. So, thank you for allowing us to come and present our budget proposal for 2025 tonight. We've done a lot of extensive work on what we continue to be fiscally responsible for the community and the residents. I think you'll find as we go through this, we really pay a lot of attention to need to have and what we need as opposed to, really balancing that out. So with that, the overall budget is a reduction of 0.8% from last year. The percentage reduction for the municipal piece is 1.8% in terms of what we chew into the overall budget. We continue to again look at our needs and how we can help in the greater overall process. Doing things, Deputy Chief Shufi, obviously is here with me. By our policy, budget falls under his office. He spends a lot of time, really looking at what we, again, and where we can cut, where we can look to save and how we can be more efficient. I think you'll find that, compared to the last few years, what we've done is really looked at our fleet management. Continue to reduce the fleet at least by one vehicle every year. We also continue to ask for less in terms of a fleet replacement in order to, again, save the municipality money based on our mileage evaluation. So we have done a lot of those types of things, and I think it's been a really good process, you know, based off everything that we've done. So with that, obviously, I'm on page 66 of our workbook, kind of going through. And now what I'll do is, I think it's easiest in the interest of time, I'll go through everything. If there's no question on an area or a budgetary line, then we can just move on. And then again, the things that fell below the line that we would like to talk about, I can mention during each subsection. Does that work?
That's fine.
Okay, fine. All right, so you see police administration currently funded for its current level. Its current level is, again, myself, 2 deputy chiefs, as well as a administrative assistant. We feel as though that's again, an appropriate number and level of supervision for a department of 46 officers. 119 people report to our office. So it's an overall large operation by anybody's metrics. So we do need a lot of those types of program oversight, which again, the deputy chief can provide. The one thing that you see added is the social services coordinator, which you all are very aware of the program. It's a highly touted, highly discussed program over the last 6-8 months. Again, we're very happy with where that program's at with its development. And we'll continue to update you with those metrics and how we can continue to improve that program as we move forward with it.
Talk to me about recruitment.
Well,
This
so
is-
here,
This is
actually,
on every year.
it is, and the one thing we wanna, and we didn't spell it out exactly, and I was probably our fault, number 5 was recruitment, but retention is a real big piece of that. And so what we wanted to ask is, while it's not funded from a recruitment standpoint, you know, we went through a phase where we were really hiring a significant amount of people. I think right now, in the last 5 years, we've hired 23 people, which is really unheard of for Mount Lebanon. I mean, the numbers, our numbers right now are, we have 25 officers with less than 6 years experience. We have a very, very young department, and that is true. It's not, they don't just look young, it is true. I mean, that is very real.
They
So-
don't look old enough to carry guns.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean-
we vetted them, they're all good.
No, I know,
Very
I know.
thorough
They're
background.
just so young.
But what I'll tell you is if we would have done the recruitment part 5 years ago, our numbers would have, but again, the industry went through a huge
Yeah.
decrease in the amount of people that signed up for tests and jobs. We're still going through that. However, we only are looking to replace 1, possibly 2 a year moving forward based off of our projected retirement. Because of that, our recruitment efforts aren't as important as our retention efforts. Our
Okay.
retention efforts are more important to us because we want to keep the people we have and focus on that.
Yeah.
Sure. One of those initiatives that were never really built into the budget in order for a retention piece is we have a gym workout facility at the building at the PSB,
Mhm.
which we allow not only the firefighters to use it, but also any municipal staff is able to use it.
Laura.
Right. Laura Pace as well as
Yep.
others use it. A lot of DPW guys will come up and use it as well. So one of that $15,000 ask on the 15,9.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is from a retention piece, we've talked to a couple of fitness centers, one being G&G Fitness, and a few others. And they have a leasing program that we can enter into to get new equipment and have it changed out over a 3 and a 5 year rotation. Because we don't have a line item, it's really not a sustainable replacement. We're sort of scratching and clawing every couple of years and trying to get money. We put in for a grant with Chief Sahida for $50,000 to replace a number of pieces of equipment. Now we've denied for whatever reason, their grants typically are, you know. But so the one thing we would ask from a retention standpoint, we'd like to focus that service level 5 in police administration into the gym facilities and replace and upgrade whether it's we replace and upgrade existing equipment, which we haven't done in a number of years. The couple pieces we have done have been through donors. It hasn't really been through a municipal line item, per se. We have, the fire, the volunteer association and the police association have contributed continually at times. So they've done their part to sort of get it up to speed. And I think that from a wellness perspective and a retention perspective, and we tout it as a world-class facility, and we do highlight that in all of our recruitment advertisements, even for non-union staff or our municipal hires. And so I've spoken with, Julia Aquino, and they always mention the workout facility as a selling point. And so if we're gonna have it as a selling point, our contention is that we need to invest in it to some degree. And I don't think the 15.9 number is really a high number based off the return that you're gonna get with the continued usage of it, the health benefits that we get,
Sure.
the reduced overall cost of care. So to us, it seems as though it's more retention than recruitment. And
Okay,
again, that I think is, I know wasn't recommended, but we would ask that it be considered for funding for those reasons we just mentioned.
I would bump that above my line.
Is there an equipment replacement plan per se, or?
Well, we would like to keep that in there as a replacement plan and the deputy.
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
So we got a price to replace the entire,
Every.
replace everything. It came to about the top of the line equipment, and we always try, when we do these types of things, we try to get the worst case scenario on
Sure.
these prices. So it came to about $66,000. Now, we could whittle that down by getting equipment that is sufficient for our use. According to G&G Fitness, over a period of 3 to 5 years, we could lease this equipment. And at the end of that lease term, we would be able to purchase it for $1. So it would be ours after that term.
What's
So-
the life of it though?
Well, the stuff that's in there now is, what some of the guys said, 20 years old.
Yeah, I mean, so Glenn uses it, yeah.
I use it all the time, yes,
Yeah,
it's old.
yeah, so,
If it takes 4 years at least to buy it, then we're gonna have it for a while.
yeah, so
Yeah,
we
I'm just curious.
figured out we figured out based upon some of the figures they gave us from other facilities that they leased to, that it would run somewhere in the area of $1,200 to $1,500 a month, which by the 15.9 in the budget. For a period of however long that lease term is, and then after that, it would just go away.
Or we could just, again, enter into a new agreement for that 3 to 5 years with new equipment, whatever the decision is based on. But I think it's worth the cost, again, to continue that upgrade and upkeep, and then we have a sustainable plan.
Okay, well, I asked to have it bumped up, so we'll
Okay.
consider it. Thanks.
All right.
Okay, next.
Okay, field services, you see, again, this is the biggest item in our budget. You can see, it allows right now for our patrol service being that we have, 4 1-officer patrol units along with the supervisor, which is a lieutenant. You saw, we fulfilled all of our backfilled, vacant supervisory roles last night. We're very happy with that. That'll continue with having a young department that could not be more critical to have all those roles filled. We're very happy about that. And that can also continue to reap benefits for us in terms of our day-to-day operation and teaching everybody and getting them in the right direction. The cost that you see there for number 5, the patrol rifle replacement, this was typically historically a capital project. Obviously, the capital numbers have changed over the last couple of years, so you see that 52 number. That is a critical need. I will say that, that continues to be something that we look at in terms of preparing for the things that, again, we are paid to think about and plan for. And so that number is something that will satisfy what we need. We continue to evaluate options. Deputy Chief Ruby is meeting this week with another vendor for the purchase of those rifles. So that is something that we have planned for and continue to evaluate to save cost there. But 52 would satisfy the 18 units. Watch commander vehicle, we pushed that off a year. We appreciate that being recommended. That is a need. The watch commander vehicle is used 24/7 by every lieutenant on the shift. And we did, the watch commanders all agreed last year to push that another year in order for us to help us out. And so that is, you'll see that landing there. The expanded patrol service, we're okay with where we're at in terms of delivering the service we need to the community. We have 27 patrol officers. Right now, we have one coming out of the academy, and we'll be putting one in the academy in January, and we'll be fully staffed at that 27 number. Question on that? All right, you see, support services. You see the, two records clerks, obviously Yvette and Jan continue to do amazing work all the time, and they really, are the engine that drives a lot of projects up there, and I really can't emphasize, what they do. Everything that we do really drives off of numbers and metrics that they give us, so I really appreciate all the work that they do, and they really are kind of the unsung heroes of the third floor. They continue to keep things going steady, and they're sort of that, intrinsic piece that always keeps it normal, if you will. Next you see, the community-based surveillance, cameras, and that's the current level for what we have. We have 10 intersections that we currently have funded, and up and running. The community-based surveillance cameras, you know, in 30 years of policing, I can say it's probably the most significant change we've ever seen in terms of the addition of that technology to help us out. Those stationary cameras are critical to what we do. We use them every day. They are, the analytics they provide is tremendous. The amount of information we glean off them is tremendous. So that continues to reap high yield with, you know, really a manageable cost. The next thing you see on number 4 is the drone equipment. So I'd like to talk a little bit about our drone program. So the drone program, whenever it was started 3 years ago, it was started really as a grassroots effort by our officers. They saw a need, they had sort of an affinity to drones, being that it was new technology and sort of neat at the time and innovative, and we really didn't know what the use was going to be. So what they did was they really formed this training program. They went out, they got Part 100 certified, they went out and they spoke with a lot of people, and they sort of started this whole grassroots effort to say, hey, look, this is what we can do. So 2 years ago, we built it into the policy. We put it under the Deputy Chief's Office of Support Services, and that's where it lives currently, which is an appropriate place for it to live. Since that time, it's developed into not only a nice to have, but really a need to have. Drones right now are the next front in policing. There's a number of different applications we found, from identifying missing persons, identifying wanted persons, locating them physically, doing aerial situational awareness on drug buys, doing aerial situational awareness on tactical deployments of officers. Drones save lives. There is no doubt about it. I will tell you the amount of cost that we put into it is nominal. We have spent a few $1,000s over the cost of the program. We had a $12,000 donation, which seeded the initial program. That was from a resident. That drone has since sort of used its usable life. We had a crash with that model, where ultimately we had some insurance money that we received, which we haven't purchased a new one yet because it's not enough to cover the cost. So the 24 you see in there, the request, is something that will give us capabilities that really we need. We currently, I'm the chairperson for the Shaycog Chiefs Advisory Committee for the drone unit. Our Lieutenant Ben Hyman is the coordinator. They currently have, and I have monthly reports I can pass on and show you, but there's currently 20 certified pilots in Shaycog. They train monthly. They have multiple deployments a month. I will tell you, as recently as last week, they located a special needs individual in Moon Township. The drone team continues to work together.
Like definitely, I'm so jeffed up.
Jeff?
Good. There's multiple calls and multiple examples you can see here. Again, that we really can't emphasize the need. And nowadays, they're calling us for them. People are weaving them into their law enforcement operations. All 22 agencies in Shaycog are using drones in some capacity. based off of this program that we've developed. Lieutenant Hyman was really instrumental in developing the program. He sort of kicked it off, and we've been looked at as a model agency. Every agency used our policy to mimic. And right now, again, they spend time, effort, energy, and really want this program to succeed. They've really driven it and shown us the value in it. Again, those of us who've been around for a while really didn't see the value and what that was going to be. And I can tell you right now, it's high rewards. I mean, each month they're going out at least 3 times a month for call outs. And again, the most recent one that they had on November 5th, where they located an individual physically with the drone. So they continue to really show their value. And so we'd ask that 24,310 be funded and pushed above the line. Again, it's not something we've invested anything else in, short of a few thousand for a Parrot drone, which is a small one. This new drone would give us capabilities of viewing from IR, FLIR, which is night vision, as you know it, and heat sensing, as you know it. So that would allow us to expand those capabilities, also have a payload on it that would also deliver items during a tactical situation. And we also learned through the last notable CERT critical incident in Upper St. Clair that they had a drone up, and that drone was really relied on heavily for footage. The DA's office really used that as a best practice, and every SWAT team now in the area is deploying drones prior to showing up on target. So,
Well, Chief, I had a question on my notes of, is this a want or a need? And it certainly sounds like a need, so I'm gonna ask that item be added above the line.
Can you explain, what drones are they using in the SHACOG program? They may need to know that.
and it's great, and currently, the Matrice drone is the biggest platform that they're using.
Which communities?
Who owns the drones?
Yeah.
Right now, Brentwood has one that's a Matrice, that's similar to the one that we're looking at. Elizabeth Township has one that's similar to the one we're looking at. And then the other ones are, small Parrot drones. They aren't the Matrice with the FLIR and the IR.
So similar to the way, I'm just gonna ask this question. Similar to the way we had the tank, for lack of a better term,
Oh, yeah.
purchased, but we own it, we insure it. But SHACOG paid for it. Is there been any discussion that SHACOG pays for this drone that's being used by multiple departments, and it's a community asset for multiple? Maybe you need to buy multiple, not just one, and spread them to defray the cost across multiple.
There has been, and so being the first year, the drone team inception started in July. So what we've learned that we are gonna have a line item for color replacement, maintenance. And so that's gonna be the first ask that we've asked of SHACOG to fund. And as other local governments understand the need, we're going to weave in a line item, the same as we do with CERT, with SHACOG, for those purposes. So it will be a slow build. Again, it's making sure, again, folks like yourselves and other communities understand the need and making sure that we sell that appropriately in terms of that portion. So not necessarily next year, but likely in 2 years, we'll likely increase that line item to potentially have a SHACOG drone, be able to do that. We appreciate that. It is very, very much appreciated. So, and the other thing that, you know, is appropriate to mention at this point is, so as we go through, we're sort of moving to ISU. Any questions on support services? Okay. So as we move to ISU right now, one of the things the deputy chief has been instrumental in this process. You know, we have currently 1 lieutenant with 4 detectives. So we have 5 detectives who are there. And you can see we're funded to that level 5 line item. One of the benefits the deputy chief had implemented is a task force program with the DEA. We recognized that the front that we were fighting was not really a street level drug fight any longer. We continue to see a lot of threats and risk from cartels and other nationally influenced groups locally. So we currently have one of our detectives assigned with the DEA, and they are doing tremendous work. both locally and regionally. And so with that comes asset forfeiture, that our task force officer, being a part of that group, then receives because of it. So because of that, we're able to fund some of the low-hanging fruit items that we would normally ask for annually, and upgrade things such as ballistic helmets, ballistic, plate carriers, shields, things that are tactically driven that we're able to use asset forfeiture funds for. So the one thing about this program that we're, and it does take time once the asset forfeiture process is a big machine. But once that starts, we know we have a number of cases in the queue. So with that, that's something that, again, will help offset costs that we normally ask you all for. Moving on, traffic safety, you see there, they're recommended for, provides lieutenant with 2 corporal and an officer. That's how it's currently set up. We currently have the, traffic safety unit. As we know, traffic safety is a big part of what we do in Mount Lebanon. Being a walking community and everything else associated with the makeup of our community. We continue to focus a lot on initiative. The program we implemented last year, which was the electronic signboard, which you all funded, have been a tremendous help to all of us. I think you all collectively have seen the data that they collect, and they really have helped to either identify a problem and recognize it so we can target it with the traffic unit. They continue to do a number of different programs. One of those programs they do is MixApp, which is the weights and measures of trucks. We also use that program for, at times, if there's a question of assault delivery, we can weigh our assault truck with it as well. If there's a question of different things with related to the fire trucks, I know they've used those scales in the past. One of the things that we identified, and the deputy chief actually identified this in the last couple of weeks, we mentioned it to Mr. McCreary as well. We kind of had a legacy program with these scales that we had, and it's not on a line item. We just bring this up as a matter of conversation with this program. We inherited these pieces of equipment that were really integral to the function of what a MixApp or weight to measured officer does. We have 2 of them currently. They go out, they do regional and local truck inspections. You'll see them advertised on our website typically. You'll see them advertised locally. And so what will happen is these scales, in order to weigh a triaxle truck, you need 6 scales. Well, every set of 2 is $11,000. We've never physically purchased them to our knowledge. We're still unraveling how we ever came to be. We, in full disclosure, don't know how we actually came to get them, but we have them.
I think they were drug enforcement forfeitures.
Okay, yeah. So we have them, but they're ending their useful life and their 30-year life. So what we do want to present or ask is, a sustainable program of replacement. I mean, again, that 30-year piece of equipment. So it would be 11,000 for 2, and I believe that's what the traffic unit had asked us to bring up in terms of their needs. And then if we did 11,000 every year for the next 3 years, they would then be covered for those scales. I think you said it's out now to see if we can get them fixed.
The one set that didn't pass inspection or couldn't get certified is out now trying to be fixed, but these are 1995 models. And the state police get rid of theirs every 30 years. From what some of the rumblings that I heard was after their 30 years was up, which was 10 or 15 years ago, we inherited these. And
Oh, there
So-
we go.
yeah, so these are, it's a 30-year service. I think any of us will be around in the police department in 30 years, but hopefully.
I won't be.
But so that is it's not on our list. We just literally learned about this over the few weeks, and we wanted to bring it up in full disclosure. We wanted to just present it as something that we do want to work towards, sustainable replacement program. I know we understand the limitations, but we do want to, we do feel like there is they write about 3,500 in fine, which the municipality receives half of that back. I mean, it's nominal in terms of not at all a revenue generating type of a operation by any stretch. It really is a safety operation, trailers, making sure the trailers are safely attached, making sure the trucks are safe with their brakes. So it really is it's the safest, or the most high liability safety operation we conduct when it comes to weights and measures, so.
So I'm trying to pull your asks. So you're looking for, and I,
Everything's taken care of. We're good.
Okay.
all right, that was easy.
That'll be explained, yes.
Okay. Appreciate it. All right. So the community outreach unit you see is funded to level 3, which is our current level, which is a corporal, an officer, and then our school resource officer included in that unit. That unit continues to do wonderful work. I mean, they deliver over 600 programs a year to our schools. They continue to do safety checks with businesses and homes. The work they do really is tremendous. We had previously assigned accreditation management to them. We've recently reassigned that to Corporal Heinrich, who's currently in traffic. And we found that that's a better use of our resources. And we found that to be a more direct route to assess the accreditation needs as well as the policy upgrade. So, and again, that falls under the Deputy Chief's office as well. And that's currently where our Special Services Coordinator lives. They've in that office as well. You can see school crossing protection. They're currently at 47 guards plus Sharon Croner as the guard coordinator. She continues to really work tirelessly to keep those levels up. Animal control is currently staffed fully at our currently at level. As we know, we get that report every February in terms of our use, and our use typically doesn't change all that much. It stays pretty consistent the last number of years. The only other thing that we have to really bring up is we had put in a capital request in 2026 for a furniture replacement in the PSB. One of those pieces we put in there was replacement of a break room that currently is in a records office. We worked with Philip Olio on this project for last year. We tried to get it in because that room would ultimately be a lactation room. Because right now we don't have a lactation area anywhere in our PSB that qualifies as that. And I know that that's something that's been talked about over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so since our needs have changed with recruitment and our staffing has
Right.
changed when it comes to, we have 4 young female officers. We want to make sure that we have everything we need for all of our folks. So it's an $8,600 ask to pull that piece out of the overall capital request in 2026 if we were to fund that early. So we would just ask that $8,600 for the break room, lactation room rebuild and records be considered as well.
All right.
I was looking at the summary. So administration year over year, the variance is 13.2%. Animal controls variance is 14.6%. Then you have the community outreach declining 6.3%. Can you explain kind of what those numbers are telling us? Is that reflective of priority? Is that reflective of just shifting?
Police administration.
So, one of the things that, Jason should absolutely pass the baton on this one for me. So, specifically, throughout, that's feathered through in there, specifically in, police field services and the other units, ISU, traffic safety and community outreach, is there was a large pension drop off for the police. So the police pension plan had an amortization payment, which is noted in the budget summary or the budget message, I'm sorry. That there was a huge amortization fall off for that. So that's feathered through in there, so that's bringing that down. Well, animal control does not apply there. Right, so they're considered in the other general employees plan, therefore they didn't get that. On top of that, in the animal control unit, we're now in a every other year capital upfit to completely replace the box and truck for an animal control unit. They're inching up towards $100,000 for that. So a couple things happen. One, things you don't see in the expenditure side is there's also a capital appropriation that we administer to the other communities, part of the animal control, that we bill them a flat amount to build an escrow so that we not all paying it all in one year. Similar to what we were talking about with MRTSA, we do that in the animal control arena, where we escrow the money, we have it sit here and now they're there. So those variances are explained through those items.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aren't you glad to have Andrew sitting there?
I know, right?
Yeah, so that's really all we have. I mean, again, any questions you have, but we appreciate, again, your continued support. You know, our officers really do, again, see it and appreciate it. And these items we ask for, I think, are very appropriate.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To summarize, just to make sure, Commissioner Silverman, I just want to make sure that it wasn't blowing it off, but there was a part to this that was going to be at the end. So we have the two requests that were for above the line, the employee retention and the drone program replacement. And we had a built-in program for the taser replacements for the police department that started last year. This year, we were able to secure the rest of the tasers needed to replace for the program, so we will not need the third year. This would have been for 25, would have been the second year. So we swapped those. So this is all considered an equipment replacement. So one was 15,000, which was the taser replacement program for the scales. So those will be switched
okay.
in so that then the next year, as part of the 3-year replacement program we had for it. And then we'll evaluate in 27 for the third scale, to make sure we're buying what we need.
Fab.
So to make sure I've got this, it basically uses the taser
Money.
money that was set aside.
Correct.
Would be the scales.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other is, the chief had talked about money for lactation, $8,600. Is that somehow line, or is that somehow has Andrew got something addressing that too?
I don't do HR, but we have had employees in this building who needed to have a lactation room. You do not need to have a room specifically designated as such. You just need to be able to provide a safe and secure location in the building for that to be performed. So, for whatever it's worth, just so you understand, it does not need to be a room specifically designated for that purpose.
Okay, I'm addressing the ask that seemingly just came up moments ago.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure somehow that was covered.
I have it in the notes. Okay, great. Okay, Public Works.
No. 7:30, we'll take a break. Terry's already asking for a break. I apologize. But that should be at the end of transportation. We'll take a break before we get into sanitary and storm. All right. Sound good? Yes. That was kind of apropos, wasn't it? Sorry. Welcome to Public Works.
167 in your binder.
167 in your binder and at home, page 35 in your budget. Take it away, Mr. Sukol.
All right, thank you, Mr. McCreary. Thank you, Barry Winstein, for your assistance as always. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present our 2025 Public Works budget. Managers recommend the budget. So I thought this year what we'll do is the manager has recommended 10 expanded levels beyond the regular operations. So I'll just briefly read through those, and as we go through the budget, we'll cover them in a little more depth as we reach them. So pedestrian routes, the sidewalk assessment program has been recommended for reinstatement. So the funding, the commission agreed, we'll be funding that program. Traffic planning and signals, we are looking to replace 14 of the school zone signal flashing devices. Those are the 15-mile-an-hour flashing devices in different school zones. Those are worn and aged. Municipal building, we are requesting the funding of a full-time custodial supervisor. We'll get into that a little bit more when we hit the municipal building part of the budget. Also, we are asking to purchase a floor scrubber. For the library building, we're looking at the replacement of the exterior fence that borders the library courtyard. That's in pretty poor shape, and it's been that way for a while, and the volunteers have been begging for that for a while. Parks maintenance, phase 2 of the signage design, and fabrication for installation across the parks and open space areas. Mr. Rebolio handled the first phase of that very, very well. So we're looking to move into the second phase of that now, and we'll give you a little more detail on that when we hit that. Also in parks maintenance, we're looking to replace fall zones at the Highland Terrace and Williamsburg Park playground areas. Phil did a great job of researching and running with the ball to get that installed over at Church Place this year in part of Main Park. Worked out real well, so we're looking to expand that program and spruce up the parks a little bit more and improve safety, of course. In equipment maintenance, we're looking to replace the diesel and unleaded fuel dispensers at the Public Works facility. Those are probably, and I'm guessing at the age of about 20 years old. All of the departments get fuel from there, fire, police, MERS, school district, Public Works. We've been having a lot of calls for downtime with those, and I'd hate in an emergency, a snow emergency or some sort of a storm, to have those go down. So I'm looking at reliability with those. And finally, in equipment maintenance, our mechanics need a new code scanner for diagnosing and working on the newer vehicles. The unit that we have is outdated and it won't accept the new updates that we currently have to buy. A lot of computers talking to computers in cars these days. So it's real complicated. So
Yeah, and with the artificial intelligence, they just keep driving the price up.
exactly.
Got it figured out. AI is.
So, starting in the first area, Public Works Administration, there are actually no structural changes to this decision unit. There's still 5 employees, including myself and Mr. Olio, along with the superintendent, the GIS technician, and our secretary. This is basically the administrative level of Public Works. Any questions on this area? Okay, moving to transportation, street maintenance. We do have an increase in a level 5, a funding increase. My philosophy this year, when putting the budget together, was I looked at levels 2 and 3. In the past, what I've done is looked at and worked with our engineer and looked at the square yardage of streets that we want to try and mill pave, basically, that's what this is. And kind of backed into those numbers by looking at the dollar value of those numbers once they're bid, which to some extent will do that with this as well. However, I think a better way of looking at this is because we have a pavement software that we're using now, the Street Saver software, as well as evaluations in OCI. We had a list last year where we also added alternate bids, alternate streets to the bid. We'll cover that with these 2 levels this year. And to expand upon that, we chose the next streets that we'd like to do, which would be Cedar to finish that up between Morgan Drive and Cochran, and Sleepy Hollow from Valley Park to Richland. So that gives you an idea of real streets that we're looking at doing, instead of just saying I need 7,000 square yards to pave. It gives you some sort of idea on where we're actually gonna spend that money. And then the rest of the levels are all maintenance items. We still do have funding for brick in here, for Brick Street renovations. And everything else that we do, crack sealing, rejuvenation, and all those type of things. Any questions on this?
I was just gonna ask you, just have on our list, item 8, just about adding some more money to that's been a brick restoration.
Okay.
Let's say, I know to give you their Andrew add another 50.
I would just make it a variable item. How about that?
I think we had a level 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have 6 and then you have 8, so you can expand it.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for the funding level for level 6.
71,000.
Okay,
Good.
okay, any other questions? Okay, moving to the next area, which is curbs. Curbs are basically just an extension of the street paving. This is replacing damaged sections of curbs, and it goes hand in hand with the street paving. So any questions on that? No changes from last year. when I say no changes to the levels, keep in mind that we did do a percentage increase for inflation, basically anywhere from 5 to 10%. So, but structurally, the levels are all the same as they were last. Moving to pedestrian routes, that's sidewalks. And as I said, we added the assessment program back in at level 4. So we will be reinstating that, and we're following up the root damage program. So the way that's structured is we do the root damage first, move through neighborhoods, and we follow it up with the assessment work. The assessment work will be done in the general area of Gilkison, south part of Washington Road, and that general area around Oredale and that general, flowing through that part of the community.
Reed, do we have a sense of what it would cost to fix sidewalks that have been damaged? There are a lot of sidewalks that have like cold patch on them, where roots have popped sidewalk pieces up, and we kind of fix it so people can get wheelchairs over it or not be tripping hazards. Do we have a sense of the scale of that issue?
What I've done is using GIS, what we're able to do now is I have an inspector walk all the streets. So what we do is we actually have a preliminary count of slabs that need to be replaced, and basically most of the slabs are 20 square feet, 4 by 5.
So like a point, like we have trees in GIS, we've got a point
And I have
where we have issues on
That's correct.
sidewalks.
And we have them, we've taken an inventory of them just digitally. We haven't put marks on them.
Right.
So yes, I can do that, and I can give you a number on that. But the way we've been moving through the community is in an organized fashion. We have the community divided up into 10 equal portions based on the linear footage of each section of sidewalk, residential sidewalk in the right of way. And we're working through each one of those sections. So I absolutely can give you a whole number, but
I'm just curious really how we get through them. Like, do we have, there are a bunch of them in like the 4th ward that I know have been there for a long time.
right.
I'm just curious, like with the tree request, like, do we have, I'm making up a number. Do we have 100 cold patches in, kind of wonky sidewalks? We fix 10 a year, but 10 pop up. So maybe it's possibility of like, there's 10 of them that just don't get fixed in 10 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think I understand what you're asking, and we don't have, that's our temporary, when I say temporary, it could be 5, 10 years, like you said, going out and putting a small triangle wedge of asphalt on that slab that's been lifted, just to smooth that transition between the two slabs, the vertical displacement between the two slabs. So that's our short-term repair. But as these programs move through the community, then we rip the slabs out when we get there and replace them. So I don't have a full count of everything. And keep in mind, streets that we worked on 2 or 3 years ago, they probably already have damage on them. So when we follow up with the assessment program, we're seeing root damage again, because the roots continue to grow and it continues to push the slabs up. It's the nature of the beast. I mean, they're in right next proximity to the trees. The roots are growing. They chop some out whenever they remove the slabs, so our contractor will pull the roots out that they can, but they're gonna grow back, and other roots are growing there too, so they're all fighting for that same space. It's a never-ending program. Commissioner Silverman's asked me this question in the past, and I don't know if the answer is, just try to do more, but we do a substantial amount of replacement every year, with the $90,000 or $100,000 that we throw at this problem every year, so.
And going back to when Tom Kelly was Public Works Director, it was like, I think we're year 20 of a 10-year
Right.
program, not very good.
And the only fair way of doing it is to work through the community in the fashion that we've already done. Start at 1, work through 10, and then start at 1 again. So, if we would jump around, number one, we're not gonna have the efficiency because the contractor doesn't know where they're working. And you have economy of scales because they're working and pouring concrete on the same street instead of 3 slabs here, 4 slabs, 2 blocks away. When they have to jump around, then it costs them more for concrete, and in the end, it costs us more for the job. So you're better off doing the work on a given street, wiping that street out, moving on to the next street.
Over the years, we've done that, we've doubled the money going into the sidewalk program to try and get, if not ahead of the curve, at least try and get to where we need to be, which leads me to wanting to item 5, expanded root damage sidewalk repair program. We'll add some dollars to that as well.
I'm with you on that.
Thank you.
I'll remind the commission that, in some years, we run into a capacity issue in terms of available contractors. And next year, we are going to add, I don't know how many linear feet of new sidewalk over on Woodland, which will again be necessitate a contractor. So again, we'll have to, you know,
We don't get a lot of bids on this work. Last year, I think we had 2 and 1 or 2 for the curb work, so contractors don't like to do this work. It's not new sidewalk where you're just digging out soil and throwing forms down, stone base, compacting, putting it in. You're digging through roots, you're trying to blend into other things. We have them using like semicircles at times, going around some of the real big oak trees and those type of things to try to protect those trees and maintain them at the same time. So those are some of the challenges that we face when we do this work.
We've done it with 2 contracts to say, we can only do this in the summer,
Right.
at least have 2 different contracts out there, so someone's working on this street versus that street. To your point, that doesn't mean someone will bid on it just because we put it out there.
right. We also try to coordinate, I'll say from a timing standpoint. So if we have sidewalk replacement that's in proximity or on a walking route to school, we want those done before school's back in session. So there's a lot of.
Summer and also just temperature. I mean, you know, it's, you can't.
Well,
do it
weather
in
always
February.
plays a part too, and so, yeah, we're.
And we split these contracts up when we bid them as well, so that the contractors know if they've already been low bidder on the work. So they're not overextending their ability to get if they get 3 or 4 of these contracts, they probably won't be able to get them done. Just
Right.
because there's a lot of work involved with this.
Exactly.
We only had the 1 root contract and the current contract this year, same contractor, G. Pasquale and Sons. And they finished in, I don't know, they probably finished both of those contracts about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So if we throw the other contracts in or expand that, it's gonna be tough to
It's
get
a
done.
tough call, because you had other years where we ran out of money before we ran out of time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and we have been throwing our crews, we've been doing some concrete work recently. For the last few years, our crews have been doing some of the worst of the worst. Some of these you see that are like a foot, 8 inches a foot. They're really hazardous, so we go out and we do those.
Right.
We did some up off of North Meadowcroft, a couple streets up there this year, just because they are so bad. But, we can't do that everywhere because, the ones that are lifted up an inch or 2, we'll patch them and get them by. But we can't do that everywhere. But the other option is to put, in-house crews on and do that work, but then that's all summertime work too, so, you're looking at a year-long employee to just do work from, April through maybe November or something like that.
Right.
Not that we don't have other work that we could keep them busy with, but that's
Put them on a
that's the
plow.
thing.
No, just kidding. Really said no stone, no stone.
Trees, put them on trees, that's what you're like.
Okay, any other questions on pedestrian routes?
No.
Okay. Next, one of our favorite, ice and snow control. No changes to this level. Any questions on this?
Nope.
Okay, moving to traffic planning and signals. We have an expanded level here, level 5. This will be a one-time cost. This is the purchase of and replacement of all the school zone, replacement 15-mile-an-hour flashers. There's 14 of them. They'll be updated to LED. Some of them are LED now, but they're in pretty rough shape, just from being in the weather for many, many years. Some of them are still incandescent. This will update that reliability and so forth, and just visibility will be much better as well.
Way back when there was money allocated to centrally control these, I assume they will continue to be centrally
Yes,
controlled.
those will not, those are in place. They will not change. That part of the system. This is the end of it. Yeah, these are the actual physical lights. That's the controller. Yeah. Yep. It's the sign and the flashers. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. Any other questions on traffic?
Traffic calming, what's you have 60,000 in for levels 6 and 7?
Those are issues that come up with the mobility board.
Yeah.
That we can
So like
fund
a little
smaller
pot
things.
of-
Yeah.
Money for that, I think that's good.
Right.
Good move,
If there's some paint that needs to be done or,
Yeah.
speed hump there or something of that nature.
Engineering.
Engineering as well. Yeah.
Use those across.
Studies and so forth, counts, those type of things.
Good.
When we get to the last night, we'll touch on the presentation you saw last night related to scrub grass.
Yes,
That does not come out of here. Once a project has been funded like scrub grass, it will not lay here. It'll lay in a capital improvement.
right.
But I think to that point, I would, and maybe it's not in this budget, but at some point, I would like to be thinking about funding the temporary resources, so whether it's a paint, fund, or it's, the temporary bollards, the speed humps, the temporary speed humps, just having a pool of those resources that we can have, which I don't know that, I don't know how much they cost, but I can't imagine it's gonna be a big.
And that's what
expense.
that's what this does. I mean, this allows for that year over year. And especially if we know one's coming, we'll carry it over as well.
Okay, yeah, because I'd like to just build that, because again, we can take them out of one place and put them in another.
Right.
And that's, I think the beauty of it is the mobility board will have that opportunity to
Mhm.
make recommendations for a quick
Quick
iteration.
fix and try it
Yeah,
too.
with resources we already have, as opposed to having to wait for the budget
Like,
cycle.
it's only when it gets to the big capital level. That's
Okay.
over 100K
Yeah.
at the type deal that we're even pushing into that.
So Commissioner Flynn, do you feel there's enough money? I'm giving.
Yeah, no, I think for now, we're okay. It's just, as we think about this going forward, resourcing that pool of,
We've gone into undesignated funds and so forth too, for the project that comes
Well,
up.
Holly Crest and,
Yeah.
the one down here,
Salem,
Holly Crest and Salem,
Right.
right? That was a undesignated,
Right, that project got completed.
unassigned fund balance. You're gonna be using the wrong technical terminology here. I was like,
Unassigned.
yeah.
We have to separate you.
I was like, that's my work dad, man.
Work, Dad.
Okay, moving, let's see, where are we?
I can get it turned red really easy, can't
Street lighting, no changes
No
there.
traffic signs and
Oh,
painting.
did we miss that?
Yes, you
Okay,
did.
No
okay.
changes there.
No changes on traffic signs and painting. This is, basically, installing stop signs, speed limit signs,
Yeah.
those
All
types
that
of
stuff,
things,
yeah.
yeah.
And there was a reduction this year because of the truck that was purchased last year.
That fell off.
There we go.
Just as a caution to the commission, as we get more traffic calming initiatives and
Yeah.
examples that, such as scrub grass,
Uh-huh.
and we start to do more line painting as
Mhm.
part of traffic calming, you may see this number increase. Or we may go contractual depending on what level we get.
Mhm. It's okay.
I just put it out for information.
Okay, moving on to street lighting. Street lighting is basically all the street lighting through the municipality. It's all maintained by Duquesne Light.
Okay. So if I have a street light out,
If you have a street light out, you can do one of two things. You can either call the Public Works Department, we'll report that for you, or you can go on the Duquesne Lights website, and they have a really neat feature where you can go on there and drop a flag on their GIS map and fill it out. Yeah, you
Okay.
probably should call Public Works,
Yeah.
yeah. We're really efficient.
Can you tell that he said that a few times on the phone?
I send the links out too. I said, well, I'm gonna do this one, but here's the link for the next one. And they're updating all the lights right now to LED technology.
hey,
And they're addressable, so they actually talk to the mothership back at Duquesne Light. And it
wow.
lets them know whenever they're out, and we don't have to call them anymore, so, well, we'll see.
Yeah, I
But
was
that's what
gonna
they
say,
told
we'll see.
me.
I've got one that's doing this. you know.
Okay, yeah, let us know, and shoot me an email, just let me know about
I
where it's
will.
at.
I noticed when I had to walk the dog after dark, and I'm like,
Well, you know what, our call volume goes up tremendously after daylight savings.
Yes.
Because we get 5 or 6 a day now, because we're out and it's dark,
Yeah,
and they
it's
see the
dark, you
lights
can't
on.
see.
And it's unbelievable how many service requests we get on a daily basis for the next month or so.
that made me love my phone, because I could put the flashlight on and walk the dog.
There you
'Cause I
go.
could see.
There you go.
All right, we're at the time out, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Take, so we'll be back. Jeff, I know you're on. We'll be back at 7:35.
Sounds good, thanks.
Hey.
All
Yeah,
right, we're back.
hey, back.
Returning from break, start on page 42 of the budget book. Page 82 of the budget
Thank
book.
you. That's what I thought. 82.
All right, Rudy, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to,
Diving.
Just keep your head down. Just keep your head down.
okay, moving on to sanitary sewers, no changes on the division. Any questions about sanitary sewers?
No.
Okay,
I'm gonna say something here. You'll see a large, if you looked at the line items portion of this, for engineering for the consent order.
Yes.
So the engineering fees are ballooning.
Why is that?
Because of the consent order. All the stuff we're doing for the gold line standard, all that work we're doing behind the scenes before we get to construction. in which the engineering will start following the capital project, once we move to that side of the house.
But this is paid out of the dedicated.
Yeah,
fund.
yep, this is paid out of sewer
Dedicated
fees,
fund,
but there is a large line item change there, for the engineering fees based on trends of where we're at with the consent order.
So this is just, you're saying the expectation of combination of the extra work, the projects we said we wanted to do,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we're in the planning stage now. Once it moves to a capital, we'll follow the capital. The engineering that's related to those specific projects will follow the capital.
Once we start actually working on the project.
Yeah, they'll shift to the capital fund, all still, dedicated from sewer funds. Sewage fund.
Mhm. Which is very.
Yes.
Mm-hmm,
Do we have
yeah,
a big-
66%. Sorry.
You got it?
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to storm sewers. Again, no changes in this decision unit. Any questions about storm sewers? Okay.
Just a
Street,
reminder for anybody listening, this decision unit is funded by the stormwater fee.
correct.
Do we, when we look at, when new developments occur or stormwater changes and that stuff, I don't know what we want to call it, gets dedicated back to us or we take care of it. How does that get factored into these costs? Like, do we say, hey, we've got another 150 feet of storm now because of development? Do we then kind of like refactor numbers? Do we look at that like, oh, we've got 9 miles of storm sewer and $10 a mile, so it's Y number of dollars? Is that kind of how we look at that or no?
Well, for new developments, if we're taking either storm or sanitary, those are all dedicated to us by ordinance. So they get added into the total amount that we have the responsibility to maintain.
Yeah.
The benefit of, I'll say, new development, if those lines are new and are typically maintenance-free for a longer period of time. I'm sure that Rudy does keep a running total of total miles that we are responsible for maintaining, both storm and sanitary, and then we evaluate those on an annual basis through the various programs that we have, either through video cameras or the other, to determine what we need to allocate for those.
Got it. Okay. As far as the grand total there, I can't imagine the mileage total is changing that much.
It depends. I mean, if you look at a development like Summit Point, we do pick up storm and sanitary infrastructure
Right.
for that type of development. To your point, we don't have a lot of, I'll say, new developable area that is going to greatly expand those numbers in any given year.
It really is the expansion of our own system. So like when we reconstruct the street and we add the intercept lines in to catch the downspouts coming from the street or from the house, and that's where we're seeing the increase in those numbers. We did VLIN, almost the full run a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So like year to year, it probably doesn't change much, but you look at 2020 to 2030 and you're like, oh, we have an extra mile of stormwater.
Exactly, but to Keith's point, it's all new, it's all
Right, so
plastic
it's not
pipe, so,
really
we're gonna get a
expense.
good 30, 40, 50 years out of that until it, decays down into something that and maybe even longer than that. And we're doing more inspections now than, storm really was kind of on the back burner in the past. And now we're more proactive, where we're out there. You don't have the problems with the roots in the sewers because they're dry until it rains and those type of things. Sanitary always has water flowing through it, nutrients, where the roots are trying to get in. It was all terracotta pipes, so they'll break into the joints and so forth. But with storm, it's usually dry, unless it's raining, so. Okay. Moving on to the next level, decision unit, street sweeping, no changes here.
So I always have the same conversation with one of my constituents about why we don't have our own street sweeping machine. So could you just expand on that a little bit so I don't have to explain it?
It was up to Rudy. We'd already have it.
We'd have two, probably or three.
Oh,
I'll save
okay.
him from that one,
Yeah.
yes.
And every year when I look at this, and Rudy and I sort of develop this into a point of conversation to the point where I've told him if he has the fire department requested and paints it red, he might actually get it, but when I look at the cost associated with the purchase, plus somebody to operate, and we pay out on an annual basis contractually,
Right.
to me, it's one of those services that makes sense still as a contractual service. The other thing that I will tell you, because my father-in-law used to be on the Public Works department in Dormont,
Mm-hmm.
street sweeping machines are one of your higher maintenance vehicles. They require more maintenance than the typical, I'll say, public works dump or other vehicle that they use. So again, every year, Rudy asks for this. Every year I say not this year, so.
He's checking into make one with his own Maker Smart machine. Okay.
I think that, I looked at those plans for the bollards and didn't even think about the street sweepers until you brought it up yesterday, Keith. And like, we're gonna need to think about that in the future. Cause if we do more of those, like if we put them along Washington, Beverly, or if we do really any stretch, those roads are gonna get dirty fast and we're gonna have to come up with a little mini sweeper or do it by hand.
Even for that stretch on Scrubgrass where we're just doing it to extend the, I'll say, safe pedestrian walking area further down. In the wintertime, they're gonna plow the road.
Yeah.
That's where the snow's gonna go.
Yeah.
Who's gonna go out and do snow removal?
Yeah.
In between the curb edge and the bollards? But
Right.
it is still a safe walkable.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to, this will be a little bit of a learning experience.
Right, we're making a safer walkable area that might become not walkable because of
Right.
our design of that.
So again, we'll learn as we go and.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, if it's snowing, how many people are actually walking it? I don't know. And,
Yeah.
Can you get removable? Those types of things. Who knows? You just got to design it.
Yeah.
To be determined.
Keep the pavement.
She's
I know
even,
how
she's
much,
even.
I know how much.
Moving
it
on.
costs.
Yeah,
Can you
moving to the
imagine?
next,
Notice how there was the second on that one.
I mean, it would cost so much money, it's ridiculous, but
Next area is refuse collection. No changes other than the increases for the fees and the
Yeah.
cost of doing this. So any questions on that?
Those were covered by the refuse, the solid waste fee.
Yeah. Okay, moving into the buildings, grounds and equipment area. The first area is the municipal building. We have a couple areas here that we're gonna talk about. Level 4 is a full-time custodial supervisor. So as you know, we transitioned from contractual to in-house custodial services about a year and a half ago, almost a year ago now. We were getting very poor service. Bill took the whole program under his wings. He set the whole thing up for all of our different facilities. We now have, 5 or 6 part-time custodians?
7 part-time.
7, okay, we're up to 7 now. It's a job in itself, just try to manage these folks. They're all part-time employees, so, they get sick, they call off. Phil is actually the fill-in right now, so, we've had some folks that had some injuries, some semi-serious, health-related issues. They've been off for a couple weeks or a month. Phil's out doing something, he has to go up to the library because there's an accident in the bathroom or something like that.
sure.
And Phil has to take care of that, so in order to ease his load a little bit and to have some sense of continuity, if you will, with the training and the oversight of these individuals, we would like to, and the manager has recommended that we hire a full-time custodial supervisor. Now, this supervisor will not just be a supervisor, they will do the things that Phil's been doing up till now.
Right.
Filling in for sick people, filling in for doing training for the folks that are new coming on board. So that's gonna be the nuts and bolts of the.
Perhaps you wish your parents had named you Phil, as you're filling in here, there and everywhere.
One other piece of this that excuse me.
The other question I asked Rudy was just to try and get a sense of, seriously, what percentage of your day is dealing with all that custodial stuff, training, ordering supplies, the actual cleaning, trying to get, and you were gonna do some more work on that, Rudy, to try and get a sense of what percentage of your day is consumed by custodial responsibilities.
It varies. There's a time we had a vacancy at the library, so that lasted over a month and a half of adding, fully servicing the library before it opens, at 8 in the morning. So those things happen and then, so it's hard to tell, but I can get numbers on it. I know when people have called off. I know all those things.
Yeah, I mean,
There's daily tasks that happen all the time related to the buildings and, really get in the weeds of.
No, I'm not looking for the last 15 minutes, I'm just trying to get a rough
Yeah,
number.
20 to 35% probably.
Okay.
That's the answer. One.
It is involved.
The reason that I recommend, one of the other reasons I recommended funding for this position is because you will remember that Recreation had requested an additional full-time maintenance
Yes.
person.
Mhm.
This position will also give us some capacity to potentially relieve maintenance staff at the rink of some of their, I'll say, summertime duties of restocking of restrooms in the park area. And so it allows us to expand capacity not only in terms of the custodial supervisor role, but also potentially provide some additional support
Yeah,
to
yeah,
recreation.
makes sense.
maintenance staff.
And I don't do this often, but I'm gonna do it now. This guy works harder than anybody I've ever seen.
It's amazing,
And there's nobody in this municipality as a full-time employee that doesn't know him,
right.
and it's because he works his tail off.
Mhm. All the time.
And there was an incident where we were in a staff meeting and I looked at, I whispered, I don't know if anybody else heard me, but I whispered to Keith, I said, we better get him some freaking help.
Mhm.
And this is part of it.
Fine by me.
And I think that ultimately the service level that you're getting now will only be enhanced getting him some help.
I'll let you
I
know.
came for the Parks Board meeting and I was liaison with the board and you're painting.
Yeah.
You know, just like you say, I got some time for the meeting. He's out with the paintbrush.
Nobody works harder than us.
If I said to Phil, will you come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and wash all the windows? He'd say, yep, not a problem. Never does he, and it's, again, you'll get that from anybody that has interacted with Phil. Whatever needs to be done,
Mhm.
it will get done and he'll make sure it's done right.
So can you ask for that sweeper to? I'll just throw this last thing out there too. So Phil ran some numbers. The last, this year, the full year that we had last year, 23, I'm sorry, was $91,000. It basically cost us for custodial services. That's with the part-time and some of the supplies and so forth that we had to purchase. Before we went to in-house part-time staffing, in 2022, we bid this work and it was substandard, what we were getting in the past. It was $160,000 it would have cost us this year.
Yeah.
To have
Yeah.
contractors in
Sure.
here that we had less control over. They would have been only doing what was on the specifications. And, so we're getting a better product for a lot less money and.
And back then, I mean, we'll just put it to bed at this point, but back then, we were talking about 2 full-timers and some part-time subsequent, so like Bill's done a great job of saying, okay, I don't know that we need that, but we're at a point where we think we need that
Yeah.
one full-timer
Yeah.
to help manage the part-time staff that he's built, and be able to manage.
So there's some facilities that are more important that you have day-to-day, like the library, for instance,
Right.
and, public safety and those type of things. Public Works Building, we could get by a day or two, with less cleaning and those type of things, but there's some of those facilities that
Sure.
just have too much use that you just can't get by more than one day, really.
Right.
So,
Well, it's also the kind of thing the public sees and
Right,
ranks us on,
exactly.
Exactly. It's like,
and I personally think that we've seen a real improvement in just all
Yep.
of the facilities, so.
mhm.
So Rudy, in lieu of a sweeper, how about a floor scrubber?
We'll settle.
Start small.
For now.
We can figure out how to get that thing on the road out there with the tail lights on.
Some bigger tires.
So that's, so floor scrubber is the other expanded level for, and keep in mind, this cost center, that full-time custodian supervisor is gonna be spread out over all the different cost centers,
Yeah,
so the different facilities. We just parked it here because why put it in?
That's what we
5 or
do
6
with the
different
full-timers,
things.
that's
Right,
correct.
right, right.
So carpet replacement, are we having, I know we're having some wearing issues, but are they creating tripping hazards or anything like
I don't
that?
think we're at a tripping hazard point. Do you think, Phil?
No, a couple offices, but we might have capacity to deal with them this year. Cause our plaster and mural ordeal out here looks like it might come in a little, under budget, so I might have some ability to take care of the.
We're managing that together.
Yeah,
Sure that-
just wanted to make sure that we weren't,
And some other painting and some other things we need to
yeah,
do in this building.
the mural looks great. They've been doing, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next cost center is Public Safety Center. There are no substantial changes here to this division unit. Any questions? Okay, Okay, we'll move to the Public Works Building. Same thing, no substantial changes here. Operationally, it'll be the same. Same with the firing range
Rubberized flooring,
for, what we got,
Firing
firing range. Okay, that's below the line, so.
I know it's below the line.
Okay.
I made a comment that it should have been in the original design. It's just me being snotty.
Well,
Um,
given the fact that we've actually just very recently
Opened it, yeah.
actually been able to utilize that.
Yeah.
I want some time to fully understand
Okay.
exactly what we need.
The thing I was mostly concerned about were the sound levels.
Yeah,
for the
and
officers. I don't wanna,
that was all part of the testing that we
Yeah.
did before we said it was good, so.
And this,
Yeah,
this
I agree
was,
with waiting, let's just see how it
the
goes.
specific line item was actually from a previous, deputy chief who's retired. That was part of the team,
Mhm.
but both, two of them that have since retired that were part of the original team of asking for this. So I think we'll wait and see and evaluate as they go, because I think a year from now, you're gonna have a lot more experience in that building.
I just have a husband with a disability from the military from guns, so just wanna make sure we keep keep them safe.
Yeah, no, that was more for moving within the building. It wasn't actually the shooting aspect of it. It was for when you were doing moving exercises.
If they were downrange.
Yeah, the rubberized flooring was not for stationary shooting,
Oh, okay,
from my understanding. If the chief's still here, but
all right,
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah, I
Just-
believe it's for mobility within the building.
Okay, moving to the next decision unit, library building. We are adding a level 4, which is that exterior fence that I talked about. That's around the courtyard
Yeah.
and down the steps. Lemoyne.
What about the fence that, I know this is off subject, but I can't handle it. That darn fence on Cedar Boulevard around the Public Works Building up on the road, which is falling apart. Part of it's wood, part of it's Phil's nodding his head. It looks terrible.
Give me the path along Cedar Boulevard, that wooden fence.
A lot of it's falling apart. Is it funded
We're
anywhere?
working, that's operational, really. We've been picking away at those things. We did a
Okay.
section over at the main park, or actually by Ben Seymour Field. What did they do the other? We did Bird Park last year.
Church Place.
Church Place,
We do.
Church Place was done this year, yeah. So we did a section up on, when we redid the steps over in Ravallo.
Yep.
Going up there. So we're picking away at those internally. We'll make sure that's the next one we pick.
Yeah, please. It just looks so bad.
Okay.
Yeah, so service level 9 in the parks budget has a preventative fence maintenance program.
Oh,
that we
okay.
instituted a couple
Okay.
years ago for those types of items.
Okay, looks
So,
bad.
Phil, you are more than welcome to use said budget.
The wooden fences we've been doing in-house, the chain link fence, we're outsourcing those, we're going to contract with
This
those.
kind of happened. A lot of it's fill in stuff. That's just awful.
All right, we'll look at that. Moving over to parks maintenance, we have several levels that have been added, 3, 4, and 5. Level 3 is the parks, the next phase of park, build signage and design and fabrication.
Maybe on that one, I was confused because in the budget, it showed 150. But the memo attached shows 23,605. I read everything right, really? I got my wires crossed or?
No, I don't think, you know what, Phil and I were talking about that this afternoon. What was the reason for that?
We took off some ones, so this is a mix of professional services and then fabricated signs. We don't need help redesigning what we've already just designed. So from an initial, cost sheet of what the next phase will include, wayfinding, additional secondary signs. We can do the additional secondary signs ourselves, exit. That's not a hard thing. We just need their services for the wayfinding portion, which includes field visits, make sure we get it right in terms of sight lines, when do you let cars know where to go? All that stuff that you don't want me doing fully.
So we can use the lower number then, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Can you just mark number 11 to go above the line? I know that was gonna eventually make the cut, but I want to have it on that spreadsheet for us to look at.
I do too. I have it too. Yeah. 11.
Yeah.
Above the line.
How many are there, Bill? Do you know?
6 total, so 18K to fund everywhere we currently have a fountain to change it out to the identical one you see at Clearview.
Right.
We put that one in early, knock on wood, we've had no issue since we put it in this spring.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's the way to go now too.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was
you
a
know.
big change with COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll go through each item because that, similar to Commissioner Grell, I had questions about adding stuff or what have you.
Okay, well, we'll establish that the fall zone replacements in there and
Yeah,
the bleachers, that's the last level of bleachers that we need to get in compliance with the fall. So the fall arresters, in the back of the bleachers, so that's gonna be a Seymour Field, that'll finish them off. And you had questions about others?
Yeah, following, with, Ann's comment about, you know, is it worth adding, or should we add additional monies to the preventative fence maintenance?
maintenance thing.
Yeah, that's it. Preventive fence maintenance program, because I agree that fence along Cedar Boulevard
Terrible.
needs some work, so. You think additional funding needs to be added, or that 16K can cover?
I'm gonna throw that over to Phil, because we've been,
I would say, yeah, we're almost at a point where some of the fencing is gonna be incorporated into your next phase of Bradford and the synthetic field of Middle and Seymour. That's kind of where your big fence dollars are gonna hit. We've done all the basketball courts. We just did main park courts. The tennis or the volleyball is left, but I know we're in the middle of a main park master plan, and we just keep those fence systems safe. But if you wanted to tackle that cedar, I'm not contractually, I'm not on board with that 16K covering that. If you're looking to go from the pedestrian crosswalk down to the secondary entrance, which is what I think everyone wants to see.
And what do you think that would cost?
Give us till December
I don't
5th.
know.
How about that?
Okay.
You could probably,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
something
there's something
to
to-
add on and.
It really looks awful.
Give us till December.
Cool. And the last is more comment than question of going, I know we've heard from the, Nature Conservancy the other night, and just to say, I'm fully in favor of item 8 about the $8,000.
Oh, yeah. In there. Mhm.
all right, any others for parks? Okay. Hearing none, moving on to planting areas. These are all the flower beds that we have throughout the community, 31 planted and maintained beds. This is a new contract year. We just finished putting the documents and specifications together. We will be adding the Washington Road beds in the new plantings and the new beds for maintenance into this contract. They'll get weeding and cleaning every other week. We have a set of specifications that McQuattro Bonsi gave to us that we will be following for maintaining and managing the plant material. There's irrigation systems in both sides and the planters that'll be maintained by the contractor. We'll do any repairs, but they'll be responsible for mulching, cleaning, all those type of things. So this is the decision unit to manage that area. Any questions? Okay, and these costs are kind of unknown. These are typically 3-year contracts for the mowing and backing up to the parks. We're up for that too. So we have seven total contracts between 5 different mowing contracts and maintenance contracts for the beds. We will be bidding those. We are anticipating an increase because the last one was bid 3 years ago.
Right.
Things were a lot better then, you know, inflation and so forth. So we basically put a 10% escalation in for the first year. We'll know moving forward, we'll have good numbers, but that's where we're at now, so. Forestry, no changes, substantial changes in forestry. That's maintained the same.
Can you add the tree program? It's number 6. Thank you. We'll just look at it.
I had it too.
I have a question, item 4, increased forestry, services, and the question about the backlog of trimming dormant trees.
Okay.
And so the idea is that you send a note out to the commission on the reply that we had 67 requests.
There were 73 when you asked. We're probably down. We started on those last week because we got the first frost. So we're probably, I think the guys probably picked off 6 or 7 in the last couple of days since I sent that email to you.
Yeah,
So we're focused on those now.
All right, I'd like to ask for additional money to be added to this program.
That's the scalable one.
That's the scalable one, yes.
The additional money
Add
would
another
be-
20,000, there's 40,000 allocated for the budget, add another 20, and get into scalable.
Is that OT for our guys or is that contract?
No, that would be contract.
Contract, okay. Well, I think that's a good idea.
Good. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that'll be all contract, and basically for trimming those trees, you're looking probably $1,000 a pop on average, big oaks and sycamore trees. Some are more. That's an average.
Steve and I'll do it.
We got 2 votes, let's see, we got a 3rd vote to add this one.
I mean, we're triple trims.
Okay.
We gotta check,
You want a contract?
we gotta check our workman's comp policy.
You can do any worse than what UK Light does.
True.
All we have to do is look at the tree and we don't.
And it really looks bad this time of year when the leaves come down and you see the damage Duquesne Light has done. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Okay, any other questions on forestry? Okay, moving to equipment maintenance, last area. This is fleet maintenance. This is our garage mechanics, all the
Yeah.
things they maintain. This is where the fuel dispensers or gas pump, diesel pump fell. So that's in this, as an expanded level to replace those. And the code scanner is a tool that our mechanics use to basically talk to the
Cars.
computers in the cars, yeah.
It's the cars.
To they tell us what's wrong with them and then they try to.
They call them Kit, you know, yeah.
They listen to the cars.
This unit actually comes with 3 years of updates for the software, so that's typically between $1,000 and $1,500 a year for the updates. Just so we'll have that from Snap-on. Okay, that's all we have. Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. Everybody else set?
Pretty good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Page 30, get the binder. Okay, was that the binder?
Michael?
31 binder.
Say thank you.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Michael, it was Michael.
Is it Michael?
Guy, yeah. I'm not-
Refer to my full name.
Regular budget.
Yeah, it's Michael, I think, whatever.
I read this
Fire.
today. I mean. How did
Thank you.
that-
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Rudy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, he has a whole desk. Yeah. All right, the remaining crew. All right, here we are. Yes, so we're in general government here, so we'll go through the line items or through the function levels for general management, legal, finance, treasury, tax collection, public services, insurance and employment benefits. If there's any questions as you go, I will just highlight like Rudy did, any expanded levels within the function levels. But general management, which pays the hefty salary that is the commission, wink, wink, nod, nod. Administrative assistant to the manager, the manager's salary, half of the planner, slash, assistant manager behind me, and some other, ancillary things as well as our HR manager.
Okay,
Expanded level this year is a wages and benefits consultant. In 2019, some commissioners that were on the board at the time, we did have a wage, and benefit consultant. We teamed up with Cranberry and Upper St. Clair. Back in 2019, the report was published in 2020. And at that time, we said, hey, in 5 years, let's
do it again, yeah.
We'll reevaluate, see where
are you
we're
gonna
at.
do it with them again?
We're going to explore that. We're going to explore that opportunity, see if that makes sense. In addition, expanding to this is making sure our benefit package is also competitive
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Not just salary. So we're gonna try and do both. We think a $25,000 number is safe, for that right now. And we'll report back to you as we move forward with that process.
Great.
Some questions on that? Legal services, nothing really changed outside of, there was a increase for litigation services. So we've seen an increase in our litigation, so we make sure we budgeted properly for that.
Sure.
So that's really the only change in legal services.
Did we bump outside counsel at all because of the upcoming contract
Yes, we did.
negotiations
Yes.
for police?
Yeah. But we're hopeful that that's not much.
Is
We
that
didn't,
just tax stuff?
say again,
Tax stuff or just general litigation?
general litigation. Yeah, and to Manager McGill's point is we do have an upcoming contract expiring with the police UPS. So we generally budget for, any legal
2024.
services that are needed for, in 2025. So we'll begin negotiations in 25, with them. Hopefully never have to use it. So we didn't use it last time and we hope to
Right,
not use it again.
right.
So,
Yeah.
But we
you
had a
guys-
concerted effort last time to having a lot of conversations early and
yeah, and we're doing that consistently and that goes kudos to the guy behind me. So I think he does a very good job with that.
Mhm.
So
I think
next
you
is,
guys do a great job with that. I
Yes.
think that is just, it's incredible
Yeah,
that that's
yeah,
happening,
yeah.
so.
well, when he can deal with now almost 7 children.
I know,
I mean,
well, that's
you got the- you got the right, you got the right person
You
in
got the right
charge.
person.
Sorry.
his own union.
He still has a smile on his face. I don't think I've ever seen him not smiling, so I don't
Yeah.
know how he does it. So, all right, financial management, moving on. That's my department specifically, the one I know the most about. No, I'm just joking. So, the real big thing here is the intergovernment financial cooperative.
Yeah.
That we have with Dormont, Etna, and Churchill, which is going strong. Well, this will be showing a full year for Churchill and Etna. We did a budget amendment, so we took on Churchill and Etna this year. This service level 3 within financial management does show an entire year's worth of service for that. There is a net gain to the municipality, so it does not cost the taxpayers anything for the cooperative. Every 2 years, the administrative fee that we charge them will be evaluated to make sure that we're not properly overcharging, we're not undercharging,
Right,
we're
sure.
making sure that
Yeah.
we're doing that. Dormont's will be up in 2025. It'll be 2 years already. I can't believe it. So we'll reevaluate that and report back to the commission at that time if there's any amendments to the agreement. All right, skipping over IT, you guys did that last time, last meeting, we'll go to treasury and tax collection. Some of this is in-house collection for real estate tax. The same people that do real estate tax, their time is split, between tax, and the other functions, which are, solid waste collection, stormwater collection, parking tickets, those types of things, the parking functions. Some of that is within, that as well. Service level 2, service level 4, and service level 5 are all contractual, with Jordan Tax Service as our delinquent collector for real estate tax. Our current collector for, local services tax and mandated by Act 32, our EDIT collector as well. All right, moving on to page 31 in the budget book. Moving to office services. So you may have seen as walking into our lobby for this past year, we did implement the customer service virtual welcome center. So that is now at service level 2 is at operating cost of $300 a month or $3,600 a year. There are still, and you will see in the carryover, some improvements we would like to make to the front entrance. And specifically to the customer service desk, with wayfinding, some visualizations, some TVs to advertise things that are going on, so on and so forth. Some different lighting, we're looking at different lighting options.
Yeah.
Mr. Avolio doing that, so it's on a timer, so it's always lit, we're working through those types of issues. But we've worked through some of the issues, but that was an expanded level last year. We think it's been successful. Kudos to the administrative assistant to the manager, Michelle Rizzo, who really spearheaded that project, and really took it off of our plate and really put it in the hands of those that are really talking to the residents every day at that level. So, it's worked out very, very well, so. Next is insurance. Insurance here, within this line item, every 5 years, we go out to market. So you heard me say in the first meeting, talking about we're going out to market for workers' comp coverage. At the same time, we're gonna team that up, or I guess it'd be the reverse. We're teaming up workers' comp coverage with going out with our non-employment insurances. So these things are your general liability and casualty, your police professional liability insurance, your umbrella insurances, your cyber liability, and so forth, inland marine, crime policies, so on and so forth. So we have a consultant in place, ready to go, that we should be able to hit the ground running in early 2025. That's actually a project Terry will head up, and she's done that multiple times throughout her career. So we'll then team up workers' comp with that as well. So that's within the insurance budget as well. And then finally is employment benefits within the general government section. This is twofold. The
Service level one, state pension contribution is actually, there is a revenue component to this that fully offsets service level one. So this is the portion that's not distributed through the departments. So I'll give it an easy example. If we have $1 million in pension payments and 100,000 of that is offset by that state pension contribution, you see 900 of it leave and go through the departments, the remaining 100,000 then has a revenue offset. Here, it's 1.3 million. And you heard in my revenue presentation at the first budget workshop, is that we had a nice year. This year, we increased 8% on our unit value. Our unit value is staying very consistent due to our hiring this year. Early on in the year, you heard Chief Haberman talk about all of our hires in the last year.
Yeah.
And we've had to see that throughout the organization. I believe our HR manager told me the other day, it's 23 since she started in November of last year. And she started November 30th, maybe. I mean, it was very late in November, so we're not talking, so let's say effectively December. So it's been a lot of hiring, so we should be at a relatively slight increase in our actual number of units, and the unit value has been increasing. So that's a nice number.
And that number is strictly headcount. It doesn't deal with 5 years seniority or 20 years of seniority. It's strictly headcount.
You gotta be hired before June 30th effectively.
But it's strictly number.
Yes, straight headcount, correct. Yep. And I already know that number by the time I do the budget of what my headcount's gonna be for next year, because anybody hired by the time I'm preparing this doesn't count for next year. So,
Yeah.
so we already know it. And then finally, service level two, just to explain that, those are things that are not department allocated, because we allocate all benefits throughout the departments. This is retiree coverage for contractual obligations that we had for prior years. This number will start to fade as we go over time because of some contractual restructuring that we did for this specific benefit, that it's paid out at the time as opposed to over time. So that'll start to fade in the next 5 to 10 years. That'll come. Any other questions on that? Okay. Moving on to other funds. I did say other funds, we can have some other fun.
195.
195, yes. Terry. First, we'll cover the debt service fund. Debt service was scheduled to fall off to the tune of almost 400,000 or a little under 400,000 next year. As presented within the manager's recommended budget, we are recommending to refill that bucket of debt service with a $5 million bond issue. That hasn't been discussed yet, but that is shown here in service level 2 as an expanded level. So that is an expanded level of $361,250. That's the level of debt service for that. We can go up or down based off of commission amendments and adjustments as we move forward.
So just to get, that's the debt that we would see in 2025 is 361.
Potentially, yes. Most likely not. I will just be upfront with you. Based on timing, generally your first principal payment isn't until the following year. You're gonna make your first interest payment 6 months from the date of issuance. Let's say aggressively, we're talking May. You may see a interest payment in November, but then your first principal payment, which would be more up to the 361, but for budgetary purposes, we don't know that number yet because we haven't decided yet.
You actually hold it.
Yeah, we're holding it, yeah. And this allows for a level debt service within the next 6 years till 2031.
When that second.
Yeah.
What's the difference on that one coming off?
It goes to like 600,000. Yeah, it's a lot, yeah.
Now, if we don't do the 5 million in 2031, is that zero debt?
Yeah, no, close, we're close. I don't have that specifically on hand, but yeah.
Andrew, did we made a
2032s would be zero debt.
Okay.
Did we make a determination yet on, I'll say term for the $5 million bond issue? Is it a 7 to 10 year?
Yeah. I believe that was in the packet. Was that not in the packet? I can provide that. I thought we
You
put
had
that
written a
in there.
memo to that effect, but I don't remember if it's in the packet or not.
Oh,
Should be.
I'll mention this now, so we're looking at, I know there's a whole bunch of stuff that Andrew put in there. we had the engineers redo the field stuff for McNeely, and that's gonna, obviously it'd be a longer term conversation about what we end up doing there. But one of the bigger recommendations that we had from the Parks and Rec Board was to do additional lighting, which would give us additional hours at existing fields. So that might be something that is kind of a bridge between where we are now, where we go with a bigger field thing, in between doing some lighting updates to get additional programming capacity for fields.
I am of the opinion that any expansion to recreation facilities should be bundled up into a larger initiative that goes to voters before we undertake it.
One thing about lighting, if you think about lighting down at the Wildcat, is that there's a question about going, if lighting is added there, would it be tied into a redo of the turf? Because the stuff that's gonna be run underneath the fields and stuff like that. So I thought that was a conversation we're having.
Yeah, as we had an internal discussion related to CIP and specifically related to Seymour Field, we talked about bundling the turf, potential expansion of the parking area down there, the extension or redo of the field lighting, and there was maybe one other piece for fencing. There were 4 pieces that sort of made sense if you were going to do that, to do them all at the same time.
Okay, yeah, it all makes sense.
Yeah, and so depending on where we go with our capital improvement discussion and specifically, this is just a placeholder at this time. Nowhere near the final number for 25. If it does leave at this number as we move forward with financing through the 25, sessions as we move forward and we finalize and get engineering estimates and all those things that you do to prep for a bond issue, we'll then have more specific numbers, whether that's up or down, depending on what the commission desires.
Also,
And at what level?
the timing that there'll be a couple new people in the chairs in 2026. Those, I'm not running for reelection. Mr. Grell is not, so just as you're thinking about timetable, doing the bond in 2020.
You tell me, you tell me to move, we move. I mean,
This group of 5, because I can't, who knows how the other.
Well, I would just say,
Commissioners
don't
vote
vote
on
too
the
quick,
bond
because the
issue.
market's been a mess.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's just, it's again, a collective effort, but yeah, we need to move, we can move, so we can mobilize pretty fast.
And my point is, whatever we're doing, we know the gang of 5 that are sitting on the table right now. With all due respect to Jeff, who's not actually at the table at this exact moment.
I still count, okay, Steve?
You do, but you weren't literally sitting at the table, so I was trying to be inclusive.
All right, fair enough.
But anyway, just the point of, who knows, change of team in 20.
Yeah, and I think generally in the past, when we know one's coming, the March meeting is really the kickoff. We're 4 months away from that. That gives us year-end financials where we're at position-wise. That gets our ACFR prepped and ready to go for any bond disclosures that we need. It's really a good time to really be the launch off point to move forward. I will also make note to those gentlemen that are sitting in the audience from our financial management board. We've also talked about throwing some of the maybe financial advisor, depending on how large the issue is, or meeting with underwriter being done at the financial management board level to get them familiarized with it and make sure that, they have an opportunity to meet with any underwriter or financial advisor as we move forward. So those things can all be a good launching off point in March.
Yeah.
One way or the other, whether we do it or not, and what the timing is.
Andrew, I just wanted to hear a little bit more about what you were saying about recreation going to voters.
Well, I think, I think we generally have a responsibility to maintain the facilities that we have, but as we think about expansion, there's a lot on our plate in the next decade, and it's gonna take a lot of capacity from the tax base to be thinking about not only the South Garage, but some of these other major, things that are going to be coming. Recreation is one that I think voters want, but by its very nature, I think is going to require a very significant slug of investment to do it properly. There's a lot of aging things, and there's a lot, and we could piecemeal and go incrementally, put up lights, we could put in one new field, we could put in one new, but the reality is that the entire kind of recreational footprint as we are talking about it, it's starting to look like it really does need a significant investment, or at least that's the desire. So if that's the case, my recommendation is that we should probably think about hiring somebody to come in, make the full recommendation, price it out, but then also say, look, you have to take it to the voters, work with the constituent groups who are interested in these facilities and how they work. Because ultimately, it's our responsibility to raise the taxes, but I want the voters to say yes on that type of expansion of service. Because if we're gonna raise taxes sufficiently to do that type of work, that is above and beyond what we're currently offering. And I think that deserves, the effort to go to voters and ask the question, do you want these things? This is what it is. This is what it would cost you. This is, your opportunity to opine. Not that it constrains a future commission. It is simply indicative of the interest in the community to do something. But I think that gives a future commission the opportunity to say, the voters have made a choice. We're working on the South Garage because that's our facility, it's our property, it's our responsibility to maintain our existing facilities and services we are maintaining. But that's a different level of expansion that I think people do want, and we need to be proactively engaging people in that dialogue, and that's a great framework to do it.
And you think about a bond of X for this project.
I don't know, right?
And
But it
part
could
of
be,
it is
yes.
Telling him, you say, would think that, putting this out there to say, we're looking for, I'm spitballing, if it's a bond of $15 million, and it could be 5 million high, 5 million low, who knows? And to say, then increase taxes because of debt service, whatever, I'm guessing that's where you're headed with.
Yeah, well,
It's like having a conversation about the overall public facilities of the municipality or multiple municipalities and organizations that would be involved in the care of, maintenance of, programming of which properties go in, which properties are not in, where do you start? It's potentially a very large exercise.
You could look at this and say, this is a 5-year exercise. We're including, fields at McNeely, new turf fields at McNeely. We're including a new recreation center at Main Park, right? These are the different things, whatever all the pieces are that come together. This is the plan. This is how it would roll out. This is the costs. And again, it was not a question of, is it a bond issue or is it, just paid, pay as you go exercise. That's a secondary discussion. This is the capacity we need to do this scale of stuff over this period of time. And we have this buy-in from all the constituent groups who are wanting more turf, more lights, more, enclosed space for sports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now it can go to voters as a packaged offering to say, this is what's on the table, yes or no, because if yes, you have a plan to raise taxes incrementally or whatever it is over this period of time to achieve this project as it's been outlaid and presented to the voters.
That was what was done. I had relayed this to Commissioner Flynn, that was what was done at Upper St. Clair for their rec facility over a 10-year phase. So they did their plan, they had a plan, and then they had the final kind of rec center side, and part of that plan was a incremental EIT increase and a real estate tax increase. In which a 5-year span, they increased EIT by 0.1%, they increased millage by 2 mils. Because that rec center, the idea was the debt service on that is a community asset. Functionally, it needs to pay for itself, operationally. But the debt service and the capital of having that asset is an increase to your property value. Therefore, we are funding it with taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
But that was done, I believe, and Manager Sarakowski over there and Assistant Manager Mansfield were there at the time. So they're still there. They certainly, but from my recollection, it was a 10-year, they were talking about that before it was open, in the early 2000s, and it opened in 2009. So, and doing those types of things that Commissioner Flender's talking about. So it's something that can be done.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to special revenue funds. This is just an overall highlight of all of our special revenue funds. Commissioner Silverman did explain that there is a typo. There are not 3 individual funds, there are 4. I apologize for that. I swore I changed that last year when we implemented the solid waste fund. But they are just showing the revenues that are dedicated. The actual expenditures are filtered throughout the budget for those expenditures through the operating budget. So that covers special revenue, any governmental funds, so to speak. So if anybody's looking at the budget and you're looking at the budget recap, these are all the governmental funds we just discussed. The other governmental funds, which are your special revenue and your debt service funds. The last one we'll talk about is on capital projects fund, and we'll get more into that through the capital improvement process. Okay. Finally, we're going to talk about parking. All right.
My favorite.
Yeah. I got my Dr. Seuss socks on tonight, so we're good. All right, so we're talking parking. So there's no real change in service levels, so I'm not gonna go through every service level unless you want me to. There's no significant increases or changes within here. Last year, things that are falling off are the South Garage feasibility study. That was funded last year by the commission, so that is falling off. And we have some slight increases in various areas, but nothing of too much significance. The items I would like to point out to you are our revenue streams. We are back to really pre-COVID levels. We're where we need to be in our different facilities. We did see a drop off. We did lose the Cedar lot through contractual with the property. We lost some revenue there, but we picked that and filled that back up. We really last year we increased the fee on parking tickets and any overnight parking tickets or anything like that by $5 to increase so that there's no service fee anymore. It's just all embedded within it. We've seen a slight tick up because of that, but we really got no complaints on that because people really liked they didn't have to click another button and didn't have to think about it. They just pay it. It's just $15. So that's been nice as some of those updates. Those things that I would like to point out to you are those things on page 93 of the budget. Coming to budget binder page here is the capital improvements.
1,
2, 3.
Sorry, just a quick question on the parking stuff.
Yeah.
Listed on the parking, I'm looking on 199, it's parking fund comparison by object.
Yes.
What constitutes other income?
Interest.
Interest on just our overall fund.
Interest on the idle dollars, correct.
Got it. And then, so there was a significant increase in meter collections over the year, like almost $100,000.
Meter collections.
I'm looking at revenues.
Yeah.
Meter collections, 579 is 666.
Well, that was 22-23.
Right.
23.
Yeah.
I think that was coming back out of COVID.
That's coming back out of COVID. Streetscape was finishing.
Mhm.
Those types of things. Yeah. It was mostly the streetscape finishing for meter collections.
I have a question.
Yeah, and then the contractual professional services, what is that?
Oh, that was the South Garage study.
Oh, got it. Okay, thanks.
You had mentioned about how revenues back to pre-COVID levels. You mentioned the drop off with the one lot. At one point, we had seen some drop off of people renting in the garages, getting permits because people work at home. You're saying that revenue is back?
The mix is different, but the revenue's back. The mix is different. Correct.
Because only good revenue from permits are going, it is showing,
Pre-COVID, we were over 700,000.
Oh.
So we're not quite there yet.
That's what I'm saying. The revenue's back, but the mix is different.
So
The mix of
permits-
revenue, so the revenue covering for the parking expenditures needed. While the mix is different, the revenue's back. We were dipping close to 2 million. We're now well over 2.2 this year. I'm projecting being over 2.3 next year, so we're back to where we were pre-COVID. We had some other savings within the fund. We had some depreciation falling off and those things. I know it's a little bit of a different fund. And some things falling off that we really haven't seen a large increase in some various expenditure items. So the parking fund's in a good spot here coming into 2025.
I was trying to figure out where. So
I can give you, I mean, we could get
Many
granular if you ever wanted that information about the mix that was pre-COVID, post-COVID. But I'm just saying the cumulative funds that are coming into the parking fund are back to where they need to be. I'm not worried. But the things I would like to express is on page 93 of and page 203 is the capital improvement section. Is next year, the next phase of any south garage repairs. That, we're finishing them up from this year. So that part of that plan was to make sure that we don't have a dilapidated garage in the interim of deciding what we're doing. I know that we're finishing up the south garage feasibility study here in short order. But there is that budgeted item there for the commission, most likely seen before a contractual approval at the commission level, potentially come to you in 2025.
That was just for maintenance, right? Like the minimum amount of maintenance.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Yes,
correct.
it doesn't
Maintain
fall
the
down.
structural integrity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then number one is the north garage elevator. This is the third elevator. We didn't get to this year, so we may delay this a year. But there are still 2 elevators that need to be done at that garage. So we did the main one on
Yeah,
Washington Road.
right on
There's
Washington
there's one from Washington Road down to Parsway, and then there's one from Parsway down. So, it's all part of the elevator.
Do they not work?
No, they just need to be upgraded. Yeah, they need there's the potential that they could not be past inspection. Right, and there's integral parts within it. There's certain things within it that just need to be replaced. And so just take the whole car out. We're gonna upgrade it so that it's got lights. It's got the things that you would see on our.
Push buttons,
Did I say again?
the old black
Yeah,
push buttons.
Well, and it'd have things for ADA access
Yeah.
and those types of things
Yeah.
that can light the path we don't have now. Especially with those, at Parsway, and down to the LRT, is to make sure that those are at night, those are, publicly accessed and so on and so forth, so. Finally, is I will make a note, yes, debt service will be falling off in 2025 for the parking fund. So we did talk about that for 2032, for the general fund and governmental funds, it all falls off. But for debt service for the parking fund, they will be debt-free in 2025.
Time to build more parking.
Just in time.
And no, you already added too many parking spots up there at the corner, so no more.
What corner was that?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Oh, up at Bower Hill at Washington.
You're still mad at me because you remember we had the agreement with the developer to put the parking
Oh.
in,
Gotcha.
and he wanted that next, and I
Gotcha.
said, no, we want to hold that over that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna forget it.
So that's the parking, but overall kudos to the parking department, specifically the parking enforcement supervisor, Mark Wheelie. He does a fantastic job.
He does, and he's such a nice man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. He does a wonderful job. We're gonna be, in the last phase of replacing all of our old meters. If back when the parking authority was taken over by the municipality or absorbed by the municipality, we'll be phasing all the equipment that was new back then. So it's time has flown. So, and kudos to him. And things I didn't mention is, and Rudy, and Public Works Department has 3 dedicated employees that work in the parking function, as well. So, plus some time and staff, dedicated in my office as well. So parking function works really well. We all work really well together. But I would be remiss to say without, Mark Wheelie and his involvement, and his dedication, as well as, our dedicated Public Works crew who, really do take pride in our facilities. So the parking fund is very, very well run in my opinion.
I'm pretty sure I know every single person who sits in the parking booths in both the south and north garage.
There will be a test, but it's when the cameras are on. Yes.
I know them all, I've had conversations with them all.
They're
but
fantastic.
they're very good, they're very nice.
Okay, so that concludes this evening. If there's anything else the commission would like to talk about. Just as a reminder, our next meeting is Monday, November 25th. That's budget workshop number 3. So it's the Monday before Thanksgiving. That will be our next one, talking about fire outreach, community organizations, and capital improvements. I will encourage us to do as much as we can at that meeting to lighten our load in December. We're making sure that staff is there to handle any capital improvement questions for you. So that our above the line, below the line, funding levels is quick and easy, and you have all the information you need in December. So that if we do have to have that meeting, which most likely we will,
It'll be short and
it'll
sweet.
be short and sweet, so.
I realize, as you said, we have one more very long agenda left, but will you be sending out something at least of where we are so far of the ads and such?
Yes, I can send that out.
Please,
Yeah.
thank you.
Would you like it printed and mailed to your house, sir?
Yeah, the bow one.
Okay, good. All right. Just want to make sure.
And it better come with some dark chocolate.
Just don't throw it like certain.
She tempted me to say, I gotta throw one.
All right. Thank you,
Okay,
Jeff.
good.
Safe travels.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.